All right, welcome. This is Chris from Savvy Pants Shop. We are independent Lularoe retailers and periodically bring to our group really interesting things like Motivational Monday, Food for Thought Friday. And as we were putting some of these things together, I thought to myself, who do you know that is exceptionally inspirational, that has a story that I think needs to get out to more people? And even if it doesn't get out to more people, like, hey, have you ever thought, like, what's the mind shift from how do you get from A to Z? You look at some people and you got to never do that. But have you ever talked to those people and said, hey, how did you ever get there? So as I was thinking about people that I've known for quite some time that I think have fascinating stories, Julie Lyons, and I'm going to put a whole bunch of links down below in the description about the RAAM Ride, the RAAM Ride, Borrego Springs Ride, to Love, Sweat, and Gears. And you're going to ask, what are all these things? But an interesting part of the story, to give Julie a little bit of a background for a bit of an introduction. I met Julie, I don't know, that it's 10 years ago, maybe, Julie? 12?
Oh, more like 2010.
Oh, 8 years ago-ish?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a while back. And through a series of networking with some friends, and I heard that all of a sudden there was this thing called the RAAM Ride. And I'm like, a RAAM Ride, a race across America. And I'm like, what is that? And a friend was doing it, and you ought to come to talk to some people, find out about it, and met Julie. And then all of a sudden I'm part of the RAAM Ride, which is Race Across the West, and crewing for Julie's team. Did the RAAM Ride back in 2010, right? Yeah. And doing fundraiser stuff and had a fantastic time. And one of those people that you meet, Julie's one of those people that you meet that are just, you're like, that's like a foxhole buddy. Like if I needed some help with something, or you may not talk for 6 months, you send a text, hey, how's it going? And you pick up right where you left off. So fantastic person with, I think, a fantastic message. We're going to try to drill down there a little bit. So Julie Lyons, say hello.
Hi.
and we will talk about, so I kind of met Julie, like I said, in 2010, and she had already become like an elite level athlete in Colorado and across the country. So that was kind of like your journey had already begun. But what I find, and we'll get into the creation of Love, Sweat, and Gears and stuff, which sort of became a charitable foundation and 501c3, right?
Yep.
Gotcha. And the creation of that, we'll get into that. But can you kind of take us back to back in the day when you decided to start like your, I don't even know what to call it, your remarkable athletic achievement career. Yeah. Can you kind of take us back to that point? Kind of what got you, what was like the starting point?
So I probably should back up just a little bit, because I'm a pre-Title IX woman. So we didn't really have sports in school. And I mean, we had cheerleading and we had swimming and we had, I think we might have had track. That was about it. But as a young female growing up, we didn't really do sports. We played with the boys, and then pretty soon you realized that you didn't play that way anymore, and so you kind of stopped. So, but I am a woman of the 70s, and I can tell you that my mantra was that I was never going to get married, I was never going to have kids, and I was never going to change my name. And I ended up doing all three, and then I said, okay, I'll do these things, but I'm never going to volunteer for anything.
I never heard that one. That's fantastic. Never.
And so then I had these two really wonderful young women, and I kind of saw how important being a really good mother could be. But there's a lot of ways to do it. And the way our relationship worked out, and the way our timing worked out, and the way we had a lot of moves early on, it became apparent to me that the best way I could parent was to kind of more or less stay home, which doesn't mean that I didn't do things. I worked from my home even before it was fashionable to work from my home, but it didn't really count, right? Because you weren't really outside the house, so that doesn't count. Yeah. So I always I still had this athletic bend, and my husband actually was a runner, and he kind of encouraged me. I didn't really like running. I liked riding my bike, and he encouraged me to do local 5Ks, local 10Ks. And I started winning them. And I thought, oh, this is really fun. Well, so then I had two girls, and I didn't want to compete with them athletically, because they were starting their own athletic careers, And so I would do things like I would be all in my running clothes, wait for the bus. And the minute the bus came, boom, I was gone. And then I'd come back just in time so I could go and volunteer at their school because that's what, I was doing at the time. So as they started to get into high school and their athletics were kind of being a really more essential part of their lives, I also was more interested in expanding my athletic career. But again, I didn't want to interfere with them. So I would go and do something really early in the morning and then come home and they wouldn't know where I was. And
You're like an undercover athlete.
Basically as an undercover athlete. So that all came out one day by accident because I had gone down to do a local race in Littleton where there was a 5K and a 10K. And these are the days before you had like electronic results. You had to wait around for hours for them to, so usually I would just go do my little 5K and then I'd run home, and no one would know the difference. In this particular race, I thought, if I really hurry, I can do the 10K too. So I ran the 10K, I ran and I got my stuff for the 10K, ran the 10K, and I accidentally saw their cross country coach while I was running the 10K. And I'm like, oh, hi, bye. Got in the car, went home, never knew. They went back to school on Monday and their cross country coach went, do you know what your mom did? And they came home so mad at me because I didn't tell them, that I had won the 5K.
The cat's out of the bag.
And so then it kind of okay with them. It's like you should do, and they were proud of it and they didn't feel what I was afraid they would feel. So I just kind of kept up with, doing it the way I liked, and it just one thing led to another. And by the time they took off to college, I was kind of doing Ironman, and that was really fun. And
okay, slow down there, Hot Rod. You can't just say, I was just kind of doing the Ironman kind of thing. So Ironman, 140.6 miles, 2.4 mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, and then you run a marathon, right?
Yes, I should back up. So I was running, and then I thought, what happened? I think I turned 40. Yeah, I turned 40. And I thought, man, I need to do other things because I'm not gonna be able to run forever. So I need to learn how to do other sports. So one of my friends said to me, why don't you come and do this triathlon with me? You know how to run.
Like that's the only thing most important
Yeah.
in a triathlon.
Swim part and the bike part.
There's that drowning part, but you can run.
And I'm telling you, I almost did drown. So I did the swim thinking, I cannot believe I have to ride and I showed up in running gear. I didn't have triathlon stuff. I had the bike I rode with my kids that had 2 baskets on the back, the whole thing. And I'm swimming. I cannot believe I have to ride my bike. And then I got on my bike and I thought, I cannot believe I have to run after this. And then I ran and I thought, I'm going to die. And I crossed the finish line. And I swear my first thought was, I know I can do better than this.
Yeah, you're hooked then, right?
That's when you're like, yeah. So then I thought, I am going to do better at this. And that's kind of how I guess maybe that's always been the way I think. When I had kids, I thought I can do better than this. When I had a job, I can do better than this.
Keep pushing.
When I did triathlon, I can do better than this. And I was not a natural athlete. Yeah, I could run, but I didn't know how to swim. I rode my bike around the block a lot when I was a kid, like everybody else, or used it for transportation. I didn't know how to race a bike. I had to take swim lessons. I had to and build up. And then you get to where, okay, and now I know how to do a sprint. Now I know how to do an Olympic. Maybe I should try a half and then I thought, for my 50th birthday, I always have these little milestones. For my 50th birthday, I think I'll do an Ironman. And that was kind of what got me going in the world of Ironman for a while. So.
And your first Ironman was at 50?
Yes. Yep, 50.
Okay. Nice.
So
what was it, just out of curiosity, what was like the training? How long had you been very active enough to do the Ironman before you wanted to do one when I'm 50? How long had you been doing those things?
Doing, shorter distances for about 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the longest distance stuff, like Olympic size stuff or halves?
And I didn't do any of the really endurance stuff till I turned 50. Cause then when I decided, I think I'll do an Ironman, like I had never run a marathon before. I kind of thought, well, I probably should do a marathon since I've never done one, so I trained for that. And then I qualified for Boston at that one. So I thought, well, I better do Boston because I qualified.
Because you did qualify.
And so it just sort of, sometimes you're in the right place at the right time, but a lot of times I think it's your mindset. You don't have to do that. I mean, I don't think doing Ironman is like, I coach a lot of triathletes now, and I always say Ironman is not nirvana. If you want to do it, great. But there's nothing with being really, trying really hard and setting your intention on anything. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if it's riding your bike to the store and back. That takes a big change in mindset to get some of that stuff done.
So you kind of always had the thought of, I want to do better, I want to be better, the undercover athlete. And then we'll get into kind of just asked you before we started recording what you're doing this summer. And it, for most people, it makes my head spin. I'm like, good Lord, woman. But is it just like you take one small bite at a time, and then as you do it, you go, I think I could do better than that. Is that kind of where what happened?
Well, I'm all about trying something new. And whenever you try something new, it's the first time, right? So then you try it and you think, can I make this better? And it doesn't matter, to me, it doesn't matter what it is. If you make a cake, can I make the next cake better than the first cake?
Yeah. So tell me, do you see that, and you coach people now as well. It's kind of, I think you do it more for fun. It's not like your career.
Right.
It's more of a passion than anything else. Is that kind of, what do you see when people come and I think I might know the answer to this, but I'd be interested to hear your take on it, is what is your perception when somebody comes to you with the I can'ts?
That's the I am, unfortunately, I have kids. I consider myself a good mom, but I'm not a very good mothering type person, because when that's the first thing I hear people say, I can't do this. What, how do you mean? Well, I have to go to work. Yeah. Well, I can't get my things together so I can exercise before work. And why is that? Why? I mean, I don't understand why. We've all done that. If it becomes, anything that you do, to me, and Chris, you should say what you think, any change you make, whether it's diet, whether it's sleep, whether it's exercise, whether it's a job, it becomes your lifestyle. It's something that you want to incorporate into what you do every day. And that's not saying that, you're too tired one day so you sleep in and maybe you miss a workout. Well, maybe you do it after work. I don't know.
So it's kind of like, I suppose if you flip that around, what you're saying is you're intentionally making something a priority. So like the reverse of that would be, well, I didn't have a chance to go to work today because I was training.
Right.
Like, what do you mean you didn't have a chance to go to work? That's your priority. You never miss that. So if you're going to flip it around, I never miss a workout because that is a priority. Is that kind of what
as women, even though I'm an older woman, and I think younger women are a little bit different, but sometimes I don't think so. I think women have a hard time putting themselves first. I think it's very difficult for women to say, well, I can't run because my kid has baseball. Well, maybe your kid might be late to baseball. Or maybe they'll have their friends while you finish your run, or something.
Or run at a different time.
Or I can't buy new running shoes because my kids need blah, blah. Well, maybe they don't need the best of blah, blah. Maybe both of you need to, you won't get the best running shoes and they won't get the best bat. You have to have something in the middle where everyone's kind of getting their needs met.
It kind of makes sense, like when you were an undercover athlete, that you were getting these things done and it didn't change any of your regular normal life. You're still working, you're still raising your kids, you're still doing all the kid things that are associated with it. You're just making time elsewhere to be undercover.
Right.
The same kind of thing. I have seen that, there's a reason why somebody else can do it, but I can't, and I have a feeling, like you say, in your coaching style, doesn't really allow for a lot of wiggle room there.
Right. So it's a whole different way to say, and like I said, when I coach people, I don't think they need to ride their bikes across the country, and I don't think they need to do Ironman. I think they need to pay attention to themselves, just a little, and paying attention to yourselves lets you be healthy in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, have you seen, and we'll get back to some of the athletic stuff, have you seen like your mindset being different and changing because of the athletic stuff that you've done? Where do you see that showing up in other parts of your world, your orbit?
Well, I think that, and I have given talks like how being active, not necessarily athletic, because people put a kind of a down, not everybody wants to see themselves as an athlete, but being active and having that commitment to being active can really help you in business. It can help you with your relationships with other people. It changes your attitude because you become important and you start to value you,
Hmm.
whether it's opinion, whether it's the way you think, whether it's the time you spend on yourself. It just changes the way you relate, and it changes the way you set goals and achieve them.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just did an interview with a guy named Mega Marty,
Uh-huh.
fascinating guy, but it's one of the things he says about, and he trains women, not just exclusively women, mostly women for figure and physique and bodybuilding shows. And he said that is the one, once you commit to it, that is the lever that you can control in your world, which is
Mhm.
I'm going to go to the gym. And when you do, it's going to be your sanctuary. And I know, and especially, which will kind of lead us into the raw ride and the ram ride, you have a lot of time in your own head
Mhm.
to hopefully clear some things out and things become a little bit more precise. Do you find that to be the case when it's kind of like your sanctuary? You could turn
It,
off a lot of things or you
yeah,
can clear up a lot of things.
yeah, it can be my sanctuary, but there's also, that's where you train yourself, because a lot of this stuff is really hard. It's hard.
Hmm.
And so it's really easy to, those little negative thoughts thinking, oh, you're not good. You can't do this. This is too hard. You need to stop. Those are always right there on the edge. And to try to train your brain to think it is hard, but that doesn't mean I can't do it. You
Yeah,
know, I don't have a lot of time, but that doesn't mean I can't do at least part of it. You know,
right. You
that,
know,
that,
it's interesting because it kind of leads me into the ram ride and the raw ride. So just a little bit of these, and correct me where I'm missing some big pieces in here, but it's essentially you start in California and you go to Maryland. They fire a gun off in California and you go nonstop. If you're doing the raw ride, it's nonstop in Colorado. And then if you're doing the ram ride, you continue on and you go all the way to the East Coast, nonstop, 24/7. You sleep at your own peril because that obviously increases your overall time. The
right.
goal is to do it as quickly as possible. So you do spend a ton of time in your head. What are the other like key classifying things would you say about the ram and the raw ride, like to describe them in a few?
Well, you're pushing yourself. The thing I like about those, I guess maybe like that I like in general about any challenge I take on, is it pushes you not only physically but mentally. So you have that sleep deprivation is not fun, but it's more about, okay, I'm going to be at my physical limit. So how am I going to feed myself? How am I going to get through that? How do I pace myself? How do I make sure that I can last the whole time?
Mhm.
And at the same time, be successful and feel good about what I'm doing.
Yeah. In the time in your head that you think, do you think you're able to take that processing
Hmm.
quality that you develop? Because you know that the physical aspect of it, you're going to spend yourself somewhere. And it will, without question, become like if you do a 5K or a 10K, it's all relative to distances, I guess, in the person. But ram and raw rides, you enter it knowing that physically you're going to be spent somewhere, and then it becomes a mental game. So what you build there in events like that and pushing yourselves, do you find that you can apply those principles elsewhere too?
Oh yeah, outside of athletics, you mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah.
What's it? Can you think of? And it's kind of like off the cuff. I should have prepared you for it. Can you think of an example of something that you run into in your personal life that's outside of the athletics that you look back at some of those things that you've done and go, "I got this because I know how to deal with it." Is there anything that you could think of in like everyday living that you could, or
Yeah.
like a dramatic situation?
Well, I don't know if it's dramatic, but I mean, starting my nonprofit, I don't know anything. I don't know anything about business. I
Yeah.
know pretty much zero thing with computers. Well, in order to have a business, you kind of have to know there's a certain amount of knowledge you have to know about computers and about how to run a business. And what I applied for this 501c3, I don't have, and I still don't really have the support. I don't have lawyers. I don't have the money to pay other people. I needed to figure out how to get this status by myself. So I thought, well, why can't I do it? I can read books. I'm not going to be a lawyer. I don't ever
Right.
pretend.
Right. No illusions there.
But why can't I mean, I can relate. This is going to sound really stupid, but I got a new little dog, right? Well, my new little dog is the kind of dog that needs to have haircuts. And I thought, I don't want to pay $50 a month to get my dog a haircut.
That is awesome. Are you a groomer now? That is, you're actually doing the cuts now?
I do everything.
That is remarkable. And the dog thinks it's a great bonding experience, I bet.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Mom's going to cut my hair today. How cool is that?
Beauty parlor.
That is awesome. Maybe, huh? That's fantastic. So when you look at stuff like that, 501c3, which is not, I would assume that there are a lot of things that you don't want to get wrong there, and it could be seen very intimidating and like, how can I get this done? But you think back, like, if I can ride across country, I can probably lick this. Is that kind of what that thought process is?
It's like, it's something new, but I can learn it.
Yeah,
right?
break it down into small pieces.
Mm-hmm. I can learn how to. It won't be perfect, but I can try to make it as perfect as I can.
Yeah, and how do I do better next time? How do I get better in the process, and building websites and social media and fundraising and.
Yeah, if I never have another website, I'd be really happy about that, because that's.
Amen, right? Speaking of which, I just talked to Holly Williams today, by the way, FY, plug for Holly. So that kind of leads me to, so the RAAM Ride is how we first met. I crewed for you on that journey, and then you repeated again the following year.
So, can I tell you a very quick side story about that?
Please.
Because I've told you before. Do you remember during RAW? I think it was RAW. Yeah, I'm sure it was RAW. When my wheel fell off, we lost the wheel in the desert.
It fell off the back of the RV, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some other team found that wheel at the end of the race. When I just did Borrego Springs this last October, when I went for the World Time Trial Championships, and I was wearing my Love, Sweat, and Gear stuff, and a guy came up to me and goes, "Did you lose a wheel in 2010? I'm the one who found it."
No kidding. How hysterical is that? And he remembered it.
And who loses a wheel?
Yeah,
I mean, what I'm talking.
Your branding is pretty good. It's not like, hey, there was somebody that lost a wheel. It's like, oh, Love, Sweat, and Gears. Nicely done. That's fantastic. How funny is that?
I know, really.
I wonder if they ran into anybody that said, yeah, remember when you guys buried the RV up to the axle? Yeah, I was the guy that drove by and saw it. No, it's not.
And paved.
Yeah, exactly. So that experience is just a remarkable experience to crew it, for sure. Logistics and the planning and stuff is just astronomical. I'll put some links down below to the RAW and the RAAM Ride. But in typical Julie fashion, so you did the RAW Ride, and there was a fundraising component to that as well, charitable fundraising?
Yes.
Okay. And then, of course, you decided to develop a 501c3, and then you built out Love, Sweat, and Gear.
And the reason I did that is because we did fundraise for RAW, and I realized that, and this is nothing against nonprofits, but when we made our donation and fundraised for the particular nonprofit we were doing it for, I didn't know what happened to that money. I gave them the money and I never saw it. For all I knew, it was paying for paper clips on somebody's desk,
Right.
And maybe control freak, but I thought, if I'm going to work hard to fundraise, I want to see what happens with those funds,
So it's a little bit of, can I do that a little bit better?
Yeah. Can I do that just a little bit better so I can see, who's benefiting? How am I helping other people? If I'm going to have my 15 minutes of fame, or my 15 seconds or whatever, I'm going to ride that pony and see where I can take, what can I do with this? How can I do good with this? That's the whole point.
And tell folks what Love, Sweat, and Gears, what your mission is. Because
So
I think
it's really twofold. So our mission is to mentor endurance riders, give people who have had the chance, who've always wanted to do some sort of endurance, long course cycling. But we try to get women and children involved in cycling because it's so empowering, especially, well, for both. But for kids, I always think, they don't ride like we used to ride, but having a bike allows them to go to their friend's house. They can get a job, make their way to school. Little things that we take advantage of that a lot of kids, they just don't have it. They don't. And the same thing with women. There's the number of women that don't know how to ride bikes that just never learned. It is astounding to me. I just can't even. Yeah, I just can't. We live in a world where they just never learned.
Yeah, I can see that. Things move so fast and far. So the organization raises money to do.
We are right now supporting Project Recycle, which is a another nonprofit that they take they take bikes that people want to get rid of basically, and they recycle them, they clean them up, and then they are connected with kids at schools who earn a bike after an entire year at school where they have to improve in 3 areas. They have to improve their grades, they have to improve their attention, they have to improve their respect for others, and all those are documented. So not everyone gets a bike. So once those, then they're awarded a bike in the spring. And then what we do, my problem with some of those organizations, again, is they give the kids bikes and then they walk away. And so what Love, Sweat, and Gears is doing is developing a bike camp for these kids. And I use it kind of loosely, so it's only like 3 or 4 days, but get them on their bikes. They get their bikes in May, and maybe in July, we circle back around and spend 3 or 4 days riding bikes with them, you know? So they're back on their bikes. We show them how to change a tire, how to wear their helmets. A lot of them will say, a lot of these kids, you give them bikes, and 2 months later, you'll say, why aren't you riding your bike? And they'll say, my bike's broken. It turns out they have a flat. You know, so they need to learn how to fit. You know, you just can't say, here's your bike, bye-bye. They have to learn,
okay.
You know, so that's.
And that's in, are you guys accepting donations?
Oh, yeah. We take bikes in cash, but bikes
in cash. Cash is good.
We never say no.
Awesome. That's awesome. We'll put a link. I'll put a link in the description to Love, Sweat, and Gears. And what I find interesting is I know a little bit of the backstories of like, you go to the website and it's a phenomenal website. God, that's awesome. Like, well, that didn't just, no one drops those things onto you that, oh, here's your website that looks fantastic. So that's just another little one of those like, hey, I think I could do this better. How do I figure this out piece? Mm-hmm. And you've done a great job with it. Same thing you did with the 501c3 and you continue to do. So tell people what you're doing this summer when I said, hey, what's going on this summer?
So I should. Okay, so what happened was I turned 60 last October, and I also, just so everybody knows, it's not a cakewalk, I also had my knee replaced. So I was kind of not sure what was going to happen with that, you know, in my life. So I set a couple goals after my rehab, and I was also turning 60, so I wanted to compete in the World Championship for Gran Fondo. Gran Fondo is a distance. It's like a 100-mile bike race, and they have a World Championship. And so I called them and said, I'm rehabbing. Usually you have to qualify. Can I do your race? I'm not going to be able to qualify. And they said, you know, you're 60. We don't care. Come on. Coming. So that was my first goal. And I broke that record for my age group. And then my second goal was the World Time Trial Championships in Borrego Springs, where I met the guy who found our tire. And I broke and set a new record there. So because of those two things, you probably don't know this, Chris, but because of those two things, I'm getting an award from the Sportswomen of Colorado Hall of Fame in another week or so. Me and all the Olympians. Snowboarding.
That's going to put you on the stage with, who am I thinking of? Who's the swimmer?
Sarah Thompson did the marathon, and then Emily and her mom are both getting one for masters and one for college swimming. Can't remember their last names. But are you talking about Missy Franklin?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, she's in there. Yeah, there's a lot of people and a lot of the people that you saw, the snowboarders and the skiers, Lindsey Vonn, those people, they're all they'll all be.
So you're rubbing elbows, and there's going to be a bronze bust of your head in there next to Lindsey Vonn and Missy Franklin, and nicely done. That comes from the Undercover Athlete, by the way.
Yeah, they're either that or you wait so long, dies off, and you're the only one left. So.
Yeah, I don't think so. So you got Borrego Springs, and then.
Yeah. So then this summer, I didn't have a lot of plans this summer. And then a friend of mine he wants to train for solo Race Across America. So we are going together. We're going to try to break 4 world records crossing the state of Colorado. So we're going to do a north to south, then east to west, then south to north, and then west to east. 4 different times.
Is this Paul Stranahan?
No, it's Gary Schimmel.
Okay, that's right. I think you mentioned that. So across Colorado, a lot.
Yeah.
Including the Rockies.
Including part of the Rockies, not all of the Rockies.
and then that's not the end of it, right? And then you go on into.
And if I'm not dead by then, I'm going to try to do the the World Time Trial Championships in Borrego has a 6-hour category, and I already set that record. And then there's a 12-hour category. So I thought maybe I'll try that one next.
And your husband's doing this one with you again?
Yeah, he'll probably do that one too. But
Is he going to do 6 or 12, you think?
He'll do 6.
He's
6.
He's got some of his sanity left.
Yeah, that's plenty for him.
That's exceptional. And then that rounds out, that's September?
That's the end of October.
End of October. So that rounds out your somewhat quiet summer.
Yeah.
With no plans.
No plans.
That's exceptional. What, Julie, if you had some parting words to someone watching this, or if you had the tombstone test is awfully dramatic. But what are their, what do you tell some of your team when someone says, gosh, I don't know, I don't know. What would you say?
You know, this is going to sound really trite, but I almost always say, what did your mom tell you? If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Clearly, it's not easy.
So a little suck it up, buttercup.
Go do it. You can do it. People have a lot of mantras, and I don't really have those. I just think I can do this. Why? There's no reason why I can't.
With the expectation that if it's valuable, it's probably going to be a little hard to start.
Right.
So have you found from your undercover athlete days to finishing RAAM and RAW and then you doing like long distance swimming events and all that stuff, have you found that the victory gets a little bit sweeter the harder the challenge is?
You know, honestly, I don't always think about the victory. I think about
the completion, not necessarily like I won something or like the challenge. Like you see a proportion between that was so freaking hard and it was so much more rewarding.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I like the competition. Like I don't like doing races where I don't have competition. So for me, it's like, let me bring my A game to no matter what it is, and
pick somebody off.
Compete the better I feel. And that took me a long time to think that's okay.
That's the point.
And I can try really hard. And yeah, you're right. I guess the harder you work for it, the better you feel. Because I don't like going to something where there's I'm going to win before I start.
Yeah. Or like you don't spend your time doing 3Ks now.
No.
Because there's not as much maybe perceived or actual value in that, although maybe you could crush it, as it is in trying something that you have no idea how to do.
Yeah, I'd rather do something I have no idea how to do.
Like groom your dog at your dog's expense. Poor dog. Dog gets beat up in the park, I bet. For now, you'll get good at it. Have the nice little pixies and all that stuff. You'll get there. I believe in you.
Bald spots, believe me.
That's fantastic. Well, Julie, we're going to put links for your charity, Love, Sweat, and Gears, down below to the website.
Okay.
We'll put some links for the RAAM Ride, the RAW Ride, and anything else that you want us to put in there. If you guys are watching this and you find it inspiring, if you don't have a pulse. But if you do, go ahead and check out Julie's website. You can also follow them on Facebook, Love, Sweat, and Gears, and in the description. A fantastic, it's great just to sit on the sidelines and watch what you have going on and go, wow, that's pretty cool. And then kind of amps up your own game, like, well, what should I be doing instead of just sitting here watching The Bachelor again? But maybe you could ride your trainer while you're watching The Bachelor, right?
Oh, see, you can multitask.
You have options. So I want to thank Julie if you have any more parting words, let me know. Otherwise, I want to say thanks for your time. We really appreciate it. And I appreciate the fact that you literally just got off your trainer seconds before I said, hey, guess what? We're going live now. I truly appreciate that.
That was fun. Thanks for asking me.
It was certainly my pleasure. So Savvy Pants Shop, independent Lularoe retailers. If you like the way we do this, leave a comment down below on the YouTube channel here. Give us a thumbs up. Find us on Facebook. Links are down below. We'd love to have you as part of the family. So thanks for tuning in. Savvy Pants Shop coming to you again sometime soon. See you later and bye. Thanks, Julie.
Bye.
Bye.